Welcome to the Local Needs Assessment webinar hosted by the Grants Management Office. I am Drew Palmer, Grants Integration Manager for Governor Mark Gordon. First off, I'm going to introduce our team. In the State Budget Department, we have Christine Imager, Administrator of the Grants Management Office, Diana Cabriales, the Grants Management Deputy Director, and Peyton McIntyre-Larimer, our Senior Budget Analyst. For Haggerty Consulting, we have Ben Hecker, who is our project manager, Harrison Newton, delivery and strategy, and Michelle Rogers, our managing associate who handles everything behind the scenes. Before we get started, let's review a few housekeeping items. This presentation is being recorded. There will be time at the end of the presentation for questions. You are welcome to put questions in the Q&A. Please put them in the Q&A and not the chat so we can keep that separate. Or you can raise your hand and we will call on you. We would appreciate it if you would turn on your camera to speak. Please enter in the chat your name, title, and organization that you represent. And we will be posting this recording and the entire slide deck on our website at sbd.yo.gov/grants at the end of this presentation. So for those of you just joining us for the first time, the Grants Management Office is housed in the State Budget Department. It is being put there as a place to assist state agencies, local communities, nonprofits, and small businesses to build capacity over time and provide additional resources to apply for federal and state grants. It is the expectation that this effort will assist in laying the foundation for a viable solution in meeting the technical assistance and resource needs of our communities across the state long term. The overarching goal of the Grants Management Initiative is to create a one-stop shop for resources related to federal and state grant opportunities and work to identify stacking and braiding options, including IRA or other tax credit programs and direct pay to local governments. And this will help us maximize benefits to our state and local communities. Our team is excited to be presenting to you today regarding only one component of the services that we provide by the Grants Management Office, the Local Needs Assessment Survey. While this is targeted at local governments, there is value in this discussion for nonprofits and small businesses. So we hope that you stay with us. We will review today, we will introduce the process, demonstrate the value of capturing your needs, identify the plans you have and the plans you may need, and support local officials in constructing their needs statements. So with that, we have a lot to share with you. Let's get started. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Christine Imager with the State Budget Department to kick us off.
Thank you so much, Drew, and thank you all for joining us today. We are really excited to get this going and to be able to sit here with you today and talk about part one of our Local Needs Assessment Survey. Very quickly, before we get started, how many of you that are in attendance today also attended our 2024 Wyoming Funding Summit that was held in Riverton from April 8th to the 12th? We're going to give a few moments for everybody to fill out those two questions on their screen. And Michelle, can you please provide us a yes or a no status?
Yes, Christine. 63% of our attendees did not attend the funding summit. However, 72% of the attendees on the webinar today did in fact attend our Grants Management Office launch webinar on July 12th.
Great, thank you. And we are very excited to bring you all up to speed on those who did not be able to, those who were not able to attend the Wyoming Funding Summit. We did a soft rollout and it took us 90 days to stand up this office between that time and the launch that we held on July 12th. Next slide, please. Real quickly, Drew Palmer briefly spoke about the Wyoming Grants Management Initiative. The Grants Management Initiative is tasked by the State Budget Department, and we work very closely with the governor's office, Drew Palmer, the Grants Integration Manager. But we have several stakeholders that we are seeking to assist. We have our local governments, our tribal governments and organizations, small businesses, our water, sewer, irrigation districts, our special districts, small businesses, nonprofits, our state agencies, and also our Grants Corps working group that we are developing. And last but not least, the Wyoming IWG, the inner working group. The IWG meets bi-weekly for 30 minutes. Our next meeting is tomorrow at 11 a.m. That meeting consists of state and federal partners who help us identify any current or available opportunities that would benefit our state and our communities within our state. If it interests you or you would like to sit in on those calls, please drop your email address and your name in the chat, or you could send us an email at the sbd-grants@wyo.gov email address, and we will get you included in that meeting invitation for tomorrow at 11 a.m. Next slide, please. The Wyoming Grants Management Office is housed within the Wyoming State Budget Department, but we are designed to help facilitate and increase Wyoming's access to federal funding and build grants management capacity across our state. The number one thing that we wanted to do was make more transparent, available opportunities so that our local governments could apply to them. We did that by launching the Wyoming Grants Connect Hub, which is located on our website. We update that daily with our federal and our state program opportunities. We also, as mentioned, we want to increase the transparency within our state and our federal grant programs. We understand that there are some opportunities that may not have been utilized in the fullest extent in the past, and we want to make sure that we secure every dollar that we are able to help benefit our state. We also want to help identify the needs of our communities and our state agencies, which is why we released part 1 of the Local Needs Assessment Survey. We are also here to build the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities within the boundaries of Wyoming. This will help us be more competitive, to create more eligible grant applications to secure those federal funds, and we are going to assist in managing that fund from the time of the award through the closeout and the audit, from cradle to grave. Next slide, please. We've broken down our goals into 3 simple components. One of them is to identify and pursue federal resources to support Wyoming's priorities. We are not here to force your hand into a grant application. We are here to identify a possible funding source that would help remedy a problem or a risk within your community. Number 2 is to provide a technical assistance across our state and across our local governments and communities to support the full range of activities associated with grants management after you secure those federal or state dollars. Last, we are here to build a lasting capacity to plan for, pursue, execute, and manage grants. We want to help create a framework that is easily applicable to all or any federal programs that you would wish to pursue in the future. Next, I am going to hand it off to our project manager from Haggerty Consulting, Ben Hecker, who will then digress and diverse into the full webinar objectives today.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate it. Yeah, so now that we've talked a little bit about how the local needs assessment process fits into the overall goals of the Grants Management Initiative, I really just want to set the stage for the objectives of the webinar by talking a little bit about the why and the what of the process before my colleague Harrison digs a bit deeper with ways to think about plans and planning, walks through the survey itself, and finally talks through the creation of a needs statement. Next slide, please. So why are we engaging in this process, and what are the goals of the needs assessment? First, I want to reiterate that the process is targeted specifically to local governments, but every organization can benefit from taking a deliberate approach like this. But especially because of the available federal infrastructure funding, the state wants to make sure that it can support governments that can best access that funding. In addition, local governments play a significant role in coordinating, articulating and aligning the needs of stakeholders in their communities. So the goals of the needs assessment are threefold. Number one, to identify your community's primary needs, so the biggest unresolved challenges, issues, or gaps that can be targeted for new money and proactive technical assistance by the YGAP team. Number two, provide you an approach to developing a needs statement that can be used for any resource search or any partnership effort that you have. And number three, to provide you with the tools you need to demonstrate that need to potential funders, partners, and your residents. Next slide, please. So why focus on need identification? So some of you may be asking yourself this question. I already know what our community needs, so why should I engage with this work? Well, the value really lies in two things. First, while it's likely true that you're aware of and understand most, if not all, of the needs in your community, using a more formalized process like this can actually help you see needs you might have overlooked. This is very common, even with highly sophisticated organizations. And then second, and most importantly, while all communities have some idea of the problems they face, successful grant applications really require the ability to demonstrate that new resources will produce a meaningful change for residents. Next slide, please. It's also important to ground ourselves a little bit in some common language. So when we talk about needs, what we're really talking about is a lack of resource, a risk, or a vulnerability that's important to your community's ability to meet its goals. So certainly a want can be a need, but for a competitive grant application, it should be thought of and conveyed in terms of a need rather than just a want. Next slide, please. So how do you demonstrate a need? So these are a few mechanisms that you can use to do that demonstration. So number one, plans, assessments, and reports. So planning, strategy development, reporting. This includes any needs for plan development. If you don't already have a plan, developing plans is part of this process. Number two, excuse me, known risks, vulnerabilities, and areas of improvement. So current community challenges and risks, gaps in risk identification, including those that might not already be in a plan, like I mentioned. Thirdly, potential solution implementation and solution development needs. So does your locality have what you need to develop or execute the projects or the improvements that you've identified? And then finally, staff capacity. So does your team have the training, the capacity in terms of hours or availability, and the right composition of skills to administer the programs and administer the resource development activity? Next slide, please. So we are really at the first stage of this process. So as you can see, what we're talking about here today really is to support your understanding of the process broadly, but also help you complete the first stage of the process, which is the local needs assessment survey part 1. So the next steps that you can expect to see throughout the process are going to be as follows. So step 2 will be diving in a little bit more to the data that you can pull together to help demonstrate the needs that you've identified. Step 3 is really identifying the solutions or potential solutions that can be brought to bear to meet those needs. And then finally, fund mapping to identify resources that can be brought to bear to support those solutions that you've developed. So I hope this gives you a sense of where we are in the process and what to expect moving forward. I think now I'll pass it over to Harrison, who is planning to talk to you a little bit more in depth about planning and some other items. All right, Harrison.
Thanks, Ben, and thanks to Christine and Drew. Really appreciate the chance to be with you here today and discuss this first part of the local needs assessment. And really, I think in standing up this work, I think it was really quickly understood that in order to really have a powerful effect for the state and for your localities, we needed to engage in a conversation around needs so that we were accurately capturing the priorities within your communities and making sure that, as we look for opportunities and resources, we're doing that in the best, most effective way possible. And it is about resource identification, but it's also bigger than that even. And so we were happy to kind of think about how through this process, we can really hopefully support the capacity of localities in Wyoming to do a lot with an understanding or an advanced understanding of your needs. So let's go ahead and get into it. Next slide, please. So what is the utility of plans? And in thinking about the process that Ben laid out, there were several steps there. We decided to begin with a conversation about plans, your local plans, plans that you might think you need, or maybe through this process, discover that you need. And I think that one of the things that we can do, one of those powerful things we can do, is invite others into a conversation with us about our resource needs, whether those resource needs be capital or human capital, partnership, alignment with other actors like the state or other offices. It really is powerful when we begin to have tools and capacity to talk about our local needs in a way that really invites others into that process, and gives them an understanding of their stake, perhaps in your local outcomes. So potential funders in particular like to see that your needs have been identified in a larger context, a larger plan or community report. There are a few reasons that's true, right? It demonstrates that your needs have been thoughtfully considered and prioritized. It shows that there's a variety of possibility around funding to meet those needs. It also makes it clear that your actions, the actions you want to take, are likely to be successful. And that's key with funders and even partners, that as you look at what actions you want to take, are these really aimed at needs in such a smart way that you're going to move the needle, as some like to say, that we're not just doing something that's a stopgap measure, but that we're really taking action that's going to be effective and in terms of the use of dollars. Those are the kinds of projects that funders and partners love to see, because it lets them know that on the other side of supporting you, there's going to be a great story to tell. There's going to be real outcomes to point to, and metrics that uphold your work. And so that's why this process, I think, is important and worthy of your time. Next slide. So we wanted to kind of take a moment to bring this to life a little bit, and we wanted to look outside Wyoming to do that, because this is a process that many communities engage in. We have Topeka, Kansas here, capital of Kansas. I don't know if you've ever been there. In some ways, it's a city that has a few urban traits, but also a lot of rural nature and character to it. And so, as the population of Topeka, Kansas continues to grow, there are a lot of stresses and pressures around transportation. There are certainly risks related to transportation, as all of you know. Kansas has a lot of risk of tornado and severe weather. But there's also population change. So there's risks even around what's happening in the community and the larger story of change in Kansas. And so if I were, or if Topeka, Kansas, were thinking about how are we going to apply to an opportunity we see in the federal landscape, one of the things that they might do is pull out a plan that they've developed. And we're going to take a lens to this particular plan that looks at the following. What risk does the plan identify? How does the plan show that your people need support? How does the plan prioritize need? Who is involved in identifying the needs and potential solutions? And are there solutions in that plan? So hopefully, as we go through this, as you're thinking about Topeka, Kansas's transportation safety plan, you can think of a plan that you have, or a plan that maybe you'd like to have, and for a moment, take this lens to it and see and think for a moment, does my plan demonstrate some of these items? And so let's go ahead and crack open this transportation safety plan to get an example of what that looks like. Next slide. So within the transportation safety plan, very quickly we find that there is a discussion of risk and vulnerability. Risk being those incidents or events that are likely to happen in your context. Tornadoes we just talked about, whether it's flood or avalanche or landslide, maybe in Wyoming. But what are the things that are likely to cause damage to your community? One way, and an increasingly advanced way to think about risk, is not just to think about disaster, but to think about social stress and change. So as industries change, there's economic pressure. There can be economic risks. There can be risks to your workforce. There's all kinds of risks. And so, the first thing that a plan does is capture what are the things that you're likely to face as a community. And then there's a conversation around vulnerability. And when we think about vulnerability, very important in application development, vulnerability are those unique characteristics in your community that will tell the story of how that risk is going to impact your people or your infrastructure. So if this is the fact that there's a special needs population that's going to potentially be at the epicenter of an event or disaster, it can be a particular part of your population that is particularly susceptible to an economic shock or change because of industry change. These are the aspects of vulnerability. And it's at the nexus of those things, and plans often capture this very well, that you find the heart of a story that you want to put into your application. Because this is how federal government, this is the language the federal government speaks when it comes to judging one application over another. Both have a desire, a community desire, and oftentimes what is the difference between who is going to receive the funding is the ability to talk about risk and vulnerability. So in this plan, we see that there's a heat map that looked at pedestrian fatalities. And we noticed that they were able to also cross-reference the economy and the social status of areas where there were the most fatalities, and then able to demonstrate that, okay, well, it's the risk isn't evenly distributed. There are particular areas that are really driving the overall statistic of fatality in our jurisdiction. So that ability to get from big picture, which is important, and that usually is the entry level to understanding need, is I've got a problem over the course of my locality, to now we understand, okay, where is that problem really, and who is there? What is the infrastructure? What is the nature of the specific problem that we're facing? And so that was kind of a first step, and that information already existed in this plan. So when it was application time, you could turn to this plan to help you, make the case. Next slide. And so the next lens we take is, were priorities identified? Does a plan that you may have tell you about the problem in some way that helps you tell a partner, tell a funder, potential funder, what specifically do you know about this problem and its potential, composition? Here we see that Kansas was able to say, well, let's go down a layer and see why are we having these pedestrian fatalities. It proves to be true that apparently there was a role of distraction in Topeka, Kansas, where there in construction sites and in development that was in response to population change. There's oftentimes a lot of things going on and busyness that's drawing the eye away of people from the traffic situation to all the many things going on. So there seemed to be some interplay of distraction around construction in the pedestrian fatality situation. And so again, being able to demonstrate that you're smart about your problem is also something that often happens in plans and is also a key part to winning federal awards. Next slide. Perhaps one of the more important aspects to winning awards, federal and state awards, is being able to show that you have stakeholder involvement and community engagement. And so, I think if you've ever gone through that process and you've done it without a plan, sometimes showing that you've had community involvement can kind of be tricky. Maybe you're applying because you want to engage the community, but applications also like to see that you've engaged the community in some degree, and that's what's led you to the application moment. That it's not just you in your office asking for resources, but if they fund you, there's a constituency of people behind that that are all having their needs met and are all going to be supportive and happy that this award was made. And that's very pivotal. So where's the memory bank for your community in what stakeholders you've engaged with, or what conversations you've had, what town halls you've had? When did the local representative come and stage a meeting? Where is the memory bank for that work so that you can bring it to bear in your application? And hopefully that's a plan. If it's not, it's a reason to think about a plan because this can be a place where that information can be had. And in this situation, though there wasn't like a real stakeholder engagement section, throughout the plan, we saw references to committee meetings and task force meetings and other kinds of meetings that occurred. And that's where you can get creative in the application process, because you can pull all that together and you can show a funder, we've had this conversation. We've been engaged with our people. This is not just my office. This is a larger group of people who've been engaged in this, and we all agree, perhaps, that this is the solution that we're putting forth to you is the right one, for our community. So very powerful, and it's a reason to plan, and it's also something that plans can capture so that you can bring it to bear in the right moment. Next slide. So importantly, does the plan suggest solutions? And if I hear any critiques of my friends in the planning field, it's oftentimes you're talking about a strategy, but where is the actual solution demonstrated? And that can be tricky. It's okay for a plan to not get all the way there to what is the solution. That it's just fine. What it means is that hopefully your plan has identified the pre-steps that are necessary to get to that solution. And that shows capacity too. Pretending you have a solution or simply inventing a solution without having done the correct preparatory work is actually something that federal grant awarders look for as a reason to not fund an award. If it feels like the solution has been come to too quickly or without the right amount of study, then that's to be avoided. So it's very important to therefore have shown a planning process that has thoughtfully done either the science work, the assessment work necessary to put forward a solution or demonstrate a solution that a funder is going to be interested in. So here we have in Kansas, this plan didn't fully capture a solution, but it did find some elements that kind of point the direction for study that needs to happen. I think in this case, there are countermeasures that need to be studied for how to limit distractions in these key areas that were discussed. How can we create signage that focuses people on the road? The municipality is aware of that kind of technology, but doesn't know enough about it to really suggest how it would be implemented in their context. So now in this plan, they've pointed the way toward our need is not to do a solution. Our need is actually to create a study that will actually inform what the solution may be at some point. So then that lets you know, well, maybe what they need is a planning grant. Maybe what they need is a development grant. And in the current slate of funding that we've been engaged in looking at, those kinds of awards exist. Planning grant awards exist. There are, particularly in the space of transportation, there are awards that have a planning phase and an implementation phase. And so you can actually have a moment of going from a plan development moment to we now have done the study and we're ready to execute. So it can be a powerful way to use a plan. Next slide. So we made available a survey because we wanted to really get to know your communities better and capture where you are and engage you in that conversation. As part of this program, we certainly have opened the door to incoming requests for any assistance you might need, and that door is wide open and remains and always is open. In addition to that, we want to have a conversation with you through this survey where hopefully we're helping you take a thoughtful moment about overall what might your needs be, not just in terms of solving a problem you may already know of, but in terms of diagnosing problems in your local context or doing the planning work that can be so helpful in the ways we've described. So we want to go over the survey that is available and just really walk you through it so that you understand its value and hopefully how you can best complete it. Next slide. All right, so I'll reference back to that case study just a little bit as the plan. If I was coming to this survey with a plan in mind, I'll be thinking about the Topeka, Kansas plan or trying to draw some connections there. Next slide. Okay, so the first moment, I think the first thought moment with this survey is picking your plan or plans, and this element of the survey actually allows you to pick up to three plans to discuss. So if you pick one plan and then you fill out some questions, there's an opportunity to select another plan and fill out some questions again. So really, we can have up to three answers for you. And I think one of the first things I heard is, why only three? And it's like, okay, well, I think we have to, we can start with three. That's actually going to be a lot for our purposes, as the three that you really feel are the most important are going to be the most impactful for your community. So do you have any current plans that capture community's major or primary needs? That might be a capital improvement plan. That might be an intended use plan, a community master plan, a community development plan, a strategic plan, a risk plan. These are all different kinds of plans. They don't have uh, precise definitions, but they all speak to different kinds of ways of thinking about your needs. You're probably all familiar with the capital improvement plan. That's where you're going to be, you've already slated resources to be spent. That's an interesting one because let's say you already have money slated for a particular purpose. Sometimes there's an opportunity to think about, if there's a federal grant that could fund that work, what other thing could we use that money for? And so there's oftentimes a successful thought process that says, hey, let's think about our gap, but also let's elevate a bit and think about what is the opportunity that might mean that the money that we've chosen to spend could be spent somewhere else. And certainly we see a lot of that in the private sector, and public sector is really kind of starting to approach work like that as well. Master plans and intended use plans certainly also capture the ability for the community to kind of know itself or demonstrate to others that we really know the trends that are impacting what our community is going to look like in 5 to 10 years in the future. And community development plans can often have a lot of housing data. In this case, the Topeka, Kansas Transportation Plan has elements of several of these. It certainly speaks to community development because it looked at particular areas of town that are changing because of population change, and therefore there's new transportation patterns and therefore some new risks. But it's also strategic in that it talks about how can it drive down, what would be the most effective ways to drive down the fatality problem. And those are all things that are going to be of value. So we asked for the plan name, if you have it, and that should be simple. But hopefully in your mind, you're kind of mentally going through this process and you've thought of a plan now that you think might be a great source for community needs or primary community needs, and you have a name that you can bring to bear. Next slide. Okay, then we get to name your needs. And here we're asking you to really just kind of, check all that apply on in this plan, report, or assessment that you've now brought to mind. What are the things that it talks about? What are the domains that it has listed out as your primary need areas? And you can look down this list. A lot of these things, in terms of the funding streams we've talked about with you, the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, CHIPS, it's a science and technology stream of funding, and other streams of funding. Generally, they deal with these elements. And this is where, for a moment, it gets a little complicated, because, I think what happens often when people go on a resource search is they look for the opportunities in the domain that shares its title. So like if I have health needs, I look to the health domain and federal government to see the awards. But that often is not the complete picture, because so oftentimes these needs are interwoven in a way that if you can show that you have a need that's at the intersection of several different domains, it may be that your health problem can be taken care of or at least partly supported from a funding stream that is not headlined under health, but is headlined under the infrastructure. Because perhaps that health facility that you're thinking about is also a critical infrastructure to your community. And so making sure that it's not subject to flooding or those things can be a huge infrastructure need, and maybe part of a FEMA, protecting it may be part of a FEMA award. So there's a lot of opportunities to be creative, and it all begins with taking that higher level view of understanding the dynamics of your need, of your gap, and that often is done best in a planning process. So the plan that we just looked at, obviously transportation, bridges, and roadways is number one. Health, because we're talking about fatalities, would be number two. There are some other places, I think, risk management and resilience would be a number three. So we're hitting several, if let's say some of these areas were near parks and recreation in the city. Let's just say that was the case. Maybe that's the piece where we get safety, because as we're doing something with a park, we're improving the sidewalks. And perhaps that's meeting, again, the needs of multiple stakeholders in your community context. So that process is important, and that's really where plans can start to help you think in that larger way, really helpful for resource development. Next slide. So then ranking priorities, and this is always important, is thinking about, well, I have got a lot of needs. It's like you go to the doctor, that old joke about going to the doctor and what hurts, and like everything. Well, we've got to figure out, which thing is going to be the priority, which thing is going to require the focus. And sometimes that's because it's the biggest problem, but sometimes it's because it's the place where you might get the most value for your community were you to address it. And again, that's where planning can become very important, because we want to hear about the biggest problems, but also a thoughtful moment around, wow, if we did solve this problem, really that problem is connected to several other issues. And so maybe what we want to attack is this kind of central issue. An example of that might be if you're thinking about resilience, and particularly population vulnerability. If you were to do things that might provide better supports for your population, maybe they're more resilient. And so there's less stress in needs of evacuation. There's less damage in terms of, damage to homes and property, because your economy and workforce is doing better. But there are ways to think about increasing the sturdiness of your population that might have a beneficial effects all across the board. So where are your priorities? And this is a conversation, only you can answer what your priorities are. So hopefully your plan has kind of decided that. In the transportation plan that we just looked at, again, it was that issue of driver distraction that seemed to be kind of fundamental to driving fatalities in their context. So that would be a place where they would want to put some focus. In other plans, you might see other kinds of thinking about what are the priorities. But that's again for you to kind of put your thinking cap on and consider. Next slide. So naming your needs, and this section asks questions about current community needs not currently addressed in any present planning document. So sometimes what you're needing is the moment to kind of elevate and have this community discussion over what are the needs, or what should the plan look like. Do we need a plan? Do we need a place that brings together the information we have about what our needs are into one document that we can use to have advanced conversations with folks at the state, with folks at the federal government, other opportunities. So that in some ways a plan is also a need. And so we wanted to ask you if there are places, particularly after today's discussion, if there are places where you would say, we could use a plan, we could use a transportation plan. We could use a hazard mitigation plan. I know we have flooding issues, but I don't know that, maybe the study or assessment on how we should resolve those is 10 years old, and that's just too old, and things have changed. So, where is it that you could use, a study or that would be part of a planning piece, or that a planning piece might point to needing. And so we give you some space to designate that for us. Next slide. And then we're asking you again, kind of what is that related to? Because we want to be able to know in what area your planning need lies. Great. Next. Yeah, and we know that, so there's a reason that plan doesn't now exist. So we're asking, what is your barrier? What is the barrier you face in creating that plan? Whether it's financial resources and staff time, if it's financial resources to support community engagement, or whatever the plan development might look like, whether it's a need for technical assistance, that's what we're here for, and certainly can be of use in that manner. Grant writing and management knowledge, potentially it's equipment of some sort that would be helpful to you in devising a plan, or knowledge and training activities, potentially even policy barriers. These are all things that could be, restricting your ability to create the plan you need, and we want to hear about that so we can get a sense of how we can be of help. Great. We also want to know about your recent efforts in terms of searching out resources and opportunities. You've probably seen opportunities either at the state or federal level, and we'd love to hear about any awards you've gone after and whether you've been successful or not. So please use this to let us know, if you have, and then kind of a summary over which things you go for and how did it turn out. Okay. So that brings us to really thinking about, the sum total of work like this oftentimes is to create a needs statement, which is just an articulation, a way of saying, here's what we have learned about our needs, and here's how we would describe it in a way that's logical, and again, invites others in to a conversation about, what our community gaps are. And hopefully does so in a way that they realize they have a common stake or some sort of alignment with you, because you've detailed this need in such a fashion that others can kind of see themselves in the story, and also see what's to be gained, and also believe that if they support you or join with you, that there'll be movement, there'll be progress in a way that everyone can see and would agree on. So let's talk about how to pull all this together into a need statement. So crafting your needs statement, we're going to do a little bit of an exercise, and it's just very brief. Just ask you if you have a piece of paper, perhaps, and a pencil nearby, to jot down a couple of answers to these questions. So we talked about the idea that you may have a plan that you were able to bring to mind that points to some needs that you have, whether you've engaged us already on those or not. And we've also talked about another kind of train of thought that says, well, what you may have come to a realization of is you actually need a plan. You have this idea that you've got a problem, you would say, is a need, but really there's no plan that kind of captures that and understands that problem in a larger context of your community and how change could happen. So if you find yourself more in the have a plan section, I think you can look at maybe jotting down, what is your plan identified need area? What comes to mind to you? You've got a plan. Maybe write down the name of that plan. Maybe write down what the identified need area is, as specifically as you can. Think about what you know, or what is the identified risk in that area. So is it, the risk of wildfire? Is it the risk of economic shock? Is it a risk of some sort of community or population change? Is it a risk of failing infrastructure? Were there stakeholders involved, or the community involved and engaged in a way that they've identified or validated that risk to your community? And if yes, maybe even jot down a few notes about who that was, if that comes to mind. And then finally, were any solutions identified or next steps identified in that plan that you have yet to execute? So this is just a thought exercise. If these things come to mind, this is kind of the process that you'd engage in as you work through an application, and how you could use a plan to support you in doing that. On the other side of the ball, need a plan. Is there an improvement area that needs planning around it? And this would be, based on your experience and deep knowledge of your own community. You have a need, there's no plan. Well, what's the need area? Let's get the domain down. And then what is the known or identified risk that connects to? who are the stakeholders involved or could be involved? If you were to kind of create a plan around that, who would you need to call up? Who would you need to have a town hall with? Whose offices would you want to call and engage with at the state or at other places? And is there any barrier involved? Is there anything that keeps you from you feel from doing that in any way? So those would be the questions I'd ask you to maybe jot down a few answers to, and maybe I'll give you just 30 seconds, 45 seconds to kind of go through that and do that, and we'll then see if anyone is brave enough to just raise their hand, use the Zoom interface, and hit raise hand and share with us their thoughts. We really appreciate if you did that, because I think it always helps to kind of take it from the conceptual into reality.
Christine, while we're waiting for that, did you have a question? I saw you raise your hand and then take it down.
You know what, Drew? I did not. I was just practicing based on what Harrison was saying.
Okay, well, you know what? You get an A+. It worked.
All right. Great. Well, I hope you're helped by this moment of thinking about this. I really say that this is, as you're going through, if it probably feels familiar to you, if you've been applying for grants recently, this is kind of the process. Hopefully you've been engaged in, and I think honestly, there's a narrative to me that is more hopeful around federal funding, because I think even on the federal government side, they've become more advanced in thinking about how can they understand community needs. And so when you really kind of are showing the community capacity that you've been thoughtful and you've taken time to engage others, and you're working as part of a larger coalition of interest, when you go for that application, we just find you're just so much more likely to be successful. So we really think it's worthwhile. So give you a few more seconds to think, and then we'll see if anyone wants to raise their hand.
And Harrison, I'm just going to jump in while some of our attendees are thinking about these questions that we have displayed on the screen. Building a plan is only one piece of the puzzle. It's only one piece of the greater picture of your community. And when you start developing a plan and laying the foundation for a plan, there may be elements that you don't think about, but whenever an industry or a new industry decides to come to town, what do you need for that? Workforce housing. Do you need affordable housing? What comes with affordable housing? Water and sewer infrastructure. What also comes with a larger community? Do you have the sustained infrastructure for healthcare? Do you have community resources? Is there a park down the road for children to ride their bicycles to? Is the bicycle path actually safe? Is it on the side of the road or is it off the road? And these are all things that we piece in, or you want to piece into a plan, so that whenever the time comes to apply for a Safe Streets for All transportation grant, you have that material already in your hand. You know where the safest route is. You know what the plan is going to be and how to get there. And sometimes you might have these random one-off things. Oh, a tree's gonna fall down. Oh, our water storage tank it might go out. And those are things that you may not have identified in your master plan, but the plan may allow you to pivot to address that problem. And that is why we're here today talking about this. And there's so much emphasis on that, because when you have a plan in place, it's better or easier for you to be able to identify those alternatives later down the road that you may need to implement, because there's something that's come up as a roadblock or a barrier, and you have managed well enough to allow yourself or your community to just pivot slightly, to take an alternative route, but it's still meeting the goals or addressing the objectives that you identified in that master plan.
And I think I just want to add on to what Christine said before we go back to you, Harrison. I loved what you said about we are tunnel visioned in how we explore federal grants. We're looking for certain buzzwords or certain things to just take care of our project, when in fact, it's interwoven, and the answer could be throughout several agency grants, not just one federal agency. It could be across several, and it could be pieces and parts to fill the gaps of the plan that you need to accomplish. And that's really what we're trying to do with the Grants Management Office also, is not only get you your plan, but then help you identify opportunities that we can stack and braid. That's what we mean by stacking and braiding and filling gaps that you've identified in your plan. So that's why they're so important to have. So I'll let you close out, Harrison, and then we'll go to Q&A.
Yeah. So would anyone like to share their thinking and help the good of the order here just by raising your hand? You can use the Zoom technology. There's an icon that has a hand, and if you hit that, it'll allow us to kind of take you off mute, and you'll be able to share your thinking. And you can hold to these questions as we pose them, or you can just talk about generally your sense of community need as it intersects today's conversation.
Well, I don't think we're seeing any yet, but maybe someone will chime in here as we go. We do have a couple questions. I don't know if this is the right time, Harrison, to go ahead and move towards those.
Absolutely.
If you have anything additional.
No, I think that's perfect. Thank you, Drew.
Okay. Michelle, I do think we have one in the Q&A. Let's start with that.
We do. So someone in the Q&A asks about MPOs. So they're saying Wyoming has only 2 MPOs. In the example provided today, Topeka has its own. And they're wondering if the grants office is going to be like an MPO for smaller communities. And they're asking if each community has to have a master plan by statute, or is the grants management office willing to help pay for or help create a master plan?
Christine.
Hey, thanks, Drew. I'll get this one. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the acronym MPO, that's Metropolitan Planning Organization. And basically that office is there for its actual definition, planning. The Grants Management Office can help facilitate or update your master plan. You do have to have a master plan by Wyoming statute, but how old is that plan? Is the plan currently addressing the needs of your community? If the answer is no, or if it's in a gray area, we want to help you update that. Updating that master plan and identifying the critical needs of your community is something that will help you you'll be able to leverage it to be able to apply or be more competitive for federal grants. So the answer is yes, we will help the communities update or create a new master plan. And that is what's today's conversation and our part 1 of our local needs assessment survey is to help identify.
And I just want to throw in another clarifier here. Thank you, Christine. It is not our role to tell you what to apply for. That is your decision in your local communities, your nonprofits, and your small businesses. We are here to help identify opportunities and assist you with resources and capacities throughout the life cycle of the grant. So we just want to make very clear that what you decide to do is really up to you in how you decide to take those recommendations and move them forward or not. We do have another question here. Let me go to, what is the Grants Management Office going to do with the information that we provide in the Local Needs Assessment Survey? And is the information confidential if it needs to be? Christine.
Yes, we do not plan on sharing any information from the Local Needs Assessment Survey with anyone else. What you give to us is safe with us, and we want to make sure that we create a safe environment for you to identify any risks in your community, address those risks, and try to remedy a solution for you. So what you identify or what you state in those local needs assessment surveys, it remains confidential with us.
And what if there are FOIA requests and there's confidential information submitted marked proprietary? How would that work, Christine?
We would have to obey the law. We would have to obey the law, and we would need to give information in regard to that request. But we do want to keep our community safe.
Okay, thank you. What if there is not an immediate federal opportunity that supports the gap I have or the plan I need to develop? Christine.
we will flag that as an opportunity for further follow-up. There's always new federal funds available. Some of those are addressed in our IWG meetings. So we will table that if we need to. And if we see an available opportunity, or there's one that would help remedy that problem, we will help address that and reach out to you at that time when it currently becomes available.
Thank you. Next question. What if I am not a local government, but I have needs? Christine.
Our assistance extends to local governments, small businesses, and nonprofits. If you are not a local government, but you're a Wyoming-based entity, please submit a request to us, and we will review it and see what we can do to help meet your needs.
Okay. Michelle, just making sure, are there any other questions? I have a couple more here, but are there any other questions that have come through that I did not see?
There are not. However, we do have one attendee with their hand raised.
We
Really
do?
quick. Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let's meet them.
Alrighty, I think really quick, you should be able to unmute now.
We're not hearing anything. So Michelle, I'll let you work with them and I'll go on to the next question and hopefully we can get that straightened out and come back to that person. So how can the state support my planning processes? Christine.
What we want to do is we want to collect all information that you have on hand. Do you have an old master plan? Do you have a capital improvement plan? Do you have a risk plan? Provide it to us and we can help show you what elements need to be addressed. And we can help facilitate the creation of a plan or help guide you on the path to building a plan.
Thanks, Christine. Michelle, I'm going to come back to you. Any success?
I lowered Bailey's hand, so if Bailey wants to raise their hand again, you're welcome to. But in the meantime, we do have another question in the chat.
Great.
Teresa asks, how old is too old when it comes to a community assessment or downtown master plan?
Christine.
That is a great question. If your master plan was created probably 7 or plus years ago, it's probably time to update it. Now, there is no set guidelines on, oh, it hits 7 years to the day you need a new one, we have to get this done. No. What it is that if you have an old master plan, how are you going to address the current needs of your community? Because there's some type of gap over those number of years that still needs to be addressed, or there's an area for improvement in your community that hasn't been addressed or may have happened in 2020 or 2021 and it's still there. Or you have a master plan but you're going up and requesting MRG funds from the SLIP. Why is that? Why is that? And we want to make sure that your master plans are up to date, because when they are, you're going to be more competitive in our region, in a community, in our state, even nationally. And that's why we want to make sure that those are updated so that they reflect the most current information available or about your community.
All right. I think we're getting to about the time that we have for this session. I've got some closing remarks, but before I give those, Christine, do you have any closing remarks that you want to share?
No, I just would like to say one thing. We are not usurping any state programs. We're not taking the role of the Office of State Lands and Investments or the Water Development Commission. But if you need assistance with applying to opportunities that are underneath of our state departments, that is why we are here, to help make sure you have everything in place so that they're not, maybe denying your application or saying, hey, you're missing a financial analysis or you're missing something, you didn't speak to this properly. We want to make sure that the application that you submit to our state departments is very well written. And if we can help you, even just reviewing the application before you submit it, we are here to help and assist you in that.
Thank you, Christine. If you want to go to the next slide with the contact information, Michelle, I'll go ahead and close this session out. So just remember, this is new, it's unique, it's all about Wyoming, so your feedback is critical for us. I want to thank our team, and on behalf of the governor and the team and the State Budget Department, we sincerely appreciate your time. We look forward to hearing more from you. Please reach out and contact us. We do want to help you with your individual projects, and through all of our combined efforts, our communities across the state will become stronger and more vibrant as we start to develop this program. So we thank you. This will be posted, both the recording and the presentation, on the state website. We appreciate it, and please be looking for more webinars in the future.